So welcome everyone to our PIRL webinar today. This is actually a repeat webinar of one that was done in April. During that April one, the recording was not done correctly, so we decided to do it again. You're very welcome, and we know that electricity and internet are fluctuating a bit for the women who are part of the panel today, so we might have people come in and out. Stefan, if I could ask you to please monitor the WhatsApp chats and respond to any comments that are there, because I won't be able to respond to them while we're in the middle of the webinar. Thank you. So the PIRL webinars, as I think many people know, but in case you don't know, the PIRL webinars are held every 2 weeks. We have very interesting speakers talking about issues related to disability inclusive development research. So how are we doing research in the area of development and global issues, global health, global partnerships? Today, we're really excited to have 3 people, possibly 4 people, possibly 1 person, we'll see how it goes, who are from the Northwest Association for Women with Disabilities. The Northwest Association for Women with Disabilities started with a small group of disabled women in Northwest Cameroon, but it has grown to include partners from all around the world and from many walks of life. It is a large and dynamic group. When we were putting together the team for the PIRL project, I knew that I wanted the Women's Forum to be included, and we were very happy when they agreed to be part of the team. The Women's Forum is not a group of traditional researchers. In fact, many people would say that these women, some of these women are amongst the poorest and most vulnerable and most marginalized women. And while this might be part of their story, what I know about these women is that they are also very strong, very thoughtful, very caring. And that when they are involved in activities, whether it is healthcare, education, business, community development, those activities become even better. Today, we have asked some of the members of the association to share their thoughts about research. So I'm going to introduce them first of all, individually, and then I'm going to go through a series of questions and ask each woman to respond to the questions as we go through the panel. So first of all, we're very honored to have Veronica Ngum to lead off our panel. Veronica is well known for her work as president of the Northwest Association of Women with Disability. And she's also the Chief Executive Officer for the Community Association for Vulnerable Persons, the CAVP. She has a very long history of being active in local, national, and international humanitarian and community work. In her work, she focuses on the rights of women and girls with disabilities, including teen and single mothers. She's passionate about promoting sexual and reproductive health rights, education and empowerment, and by providing information and communication technology. And she also emphasizes on the positive use of the internet so that women can avoid online and social media violence that is often directed toward women and girls. Recently, Veronica was recognized with a 21 Women Leaders to Watch in 2021 by the organization World Pulse, where she brought the spotlight to the technology needs of women with disabilities. Second, a warm welcome to Ms. Banadzem Goodness, who is also a member of the Northwest Association of Women with Disabilities and a recent graduate of the University of Bamenda in the Higher Teacher Training School, ENS Bambili, where she read history. She is now working in a school in Magba in Cameroon. She comes from Insa, which has given her an understanding of the situation of rural people, and especially girls and women with disabilities living in rural areas. As a woman with visual impairment herself, who has overcome many obstacles, she's passionate about improving the situation for women and girls with disabilities in Africa. She's been an active member of the Northwest Association, working on improving access to smartphones for people with visual impairments. Third, we're very happy to have Helen Yaah Larba Ndi with us. Helen is a seasoned English teacher by profession and a holder of a master's degree in curriculum studies. She's been teaching for more than 10 years with the Cameroon Ministry of Secondary Education. As a woman with a mobility impairment, she has been an inspiration to many women, excuse me, especially women and girls, through her advocacy in community-based organizations, schools, and churches. She is one of the founding members of the Northwest Association of Women with Disabilities, where she has been instrumental in activities related to women's rights. Within the association, her focus has been to inspire her peers to come out of the stigma which sees people living with disabilities, especially girls, as good for nothing. As such, her focus has been on getting women with disabilities involved in activities that empower them both educationally and financially. And finally, but not last but not least, Ruth Acheinegeh. Ruth also has a long history of involvement in working for rights for women and girls with disabilities and is another founder of the Northwest Association of Women with Disabilities. She is an experienced researcher and author, having taken part in several projects such as the Sexual and Reproductive Rights of Women with Disabilities project in Bamenda. She has been involved in a research project that looked at post-colonial perspectives in disability research, as well as many other projects. And you can read more about her experiences on her webpage under Eugene Weekly. So a very warm welcome to this distinguished panel of leaders and courageous women. We welcome you all here today. We have a set of 5 questions, and as I mentioned, I'm going to go through this by asking each of you a question and giving you about 1 or 2 minutes to answer the question. After we've heard from all of the women for the first question, we'll move on to the second question. So first of all, please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be interested or involved in research. So we'll start with you, please, Veronica.
Thank you, Lynn. Hi, everyone. Like Lynn has already said, I have passion to digitally empower women and girls with disability to stay safe online and have access to economic empowerment opportunities. I am a humanitarian. In the context of this humanitarian crisis, we carry out human intervention, a woman with disability, specifically a clubfoot deformity. And I live in Bamenda. I live in the Northwest region in the city of Bamenda. I am of the English-speaking descent, and I am specialized in project writing.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Helen, please go ahead.
Everyone, I'm happy to be back again on the panel. I'm not going to go into details about self-introduction so much. Going directly to answer the question about my interest in research. My interest in research first started as an educationist and later as an advocate for people, especially women with disability, because there is a need to find out a degree or an extent to which certain hypotheses are true when it comes to people with disability, and also to be able to come out with comprehensive data to ascertain some of these hypotheses and to take that which is factual and that which is a myth. I am a woman living with disability from the Northwest region and a teacher by profession. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So let's go on to our second question. Why do you think it is so important to include women with disabilities, and particularly African women with disabilities, poor African women or rural African women in research projects? Please go ahead, Veronica.
Women and girls with disabilities should be involved in research projects because they have limited access to opportunities and interactions, basically in every aspect in life. Due to their impairments, they have challenges in social interaction, in access to education, access to work life, access to health services, to social services. Now, when you involve them in research, they will gain knowledge. It's a learning process. Like the PIRL team, we have been in the PIRL project for some time now, and it's a very good learning process. It's going to open up links for us to have better networks, have more information on how to better manage our impairments and our interactions, give us room to meet new people, new researchers, gain new ideas, and give us the equality, it gives us the opportunity to have equal access to opportunities and work life. Research will also help women with disability to be able to advocate and showcase themselves to make other stakeholders and other actors on the ground to know that we have potentials that we can also contribute to the growth of our development. We are not just on the receiving end, but we also have potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. Helen, why do you think it's important to include women with disabilities, and particularly African women with disabilities, in research projects?
I think it is very important to include women with disability, particularly African women in research projects, because when we look at research itself, which is discovering or creating new knowledge or the use of existing knowledge in a new and creative way, so that researchers can generate new concepts, methodologies, and understanding. So when we want to carry out a research with a certain hypothesis, especially if it has to do with women or people living with disabilities, it is very essential to include them. Otherwise, the findings will be lacking, because it's a systematic investigation into a study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. So it is important to include women with disability in research because it helps the researcher to be able to describe, explain, predict, and control any observed phenomenon, which will now help in the findings and bring out best practices It helps the researcher to find out which treatment works better for those that are being researched. Then researchers will be able to find the answers to things that are unknown. That is, they'll be filling the gaps in knowledge and changing the way some things work. It also prevents the development or recurrence of certain trends and attitudes and mannerisms towards women with disability, and from also on the part of the women with disabilities, because some of us don't understand certain concepts and certain attitudes and mannerisms as well. So it's a two-way thing. It is not only on one side. Like Vero said, it will now give them access to certain things that they were lacking in knowledge. And so it improves, it will also go further improve the quality of life for women living with disability. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Yes, that, one of the things that we're trying to do whenever a research project is carried out is to come closer to an understanding of truth, right? What is the real situation? And if large groups of people are left out, then we don't really have a full picture. So thank you for those comments. I see that Goodness has now joined us. Goodness, I did introduce you. Maybe you would like to both say a little bit about yourself to tell us about who you are, and then from your perspective, why is it important to include women with disabilities in research? Please go ahead, Goodness. Looks like we lost Goodness. Hopefully she'll come back. We'll give her some time when she comes back. So our next question is not really a question. It's more of well, I guess it's a question. Can you please share a story about a research project that you've been involved with? It could be one where you were just involved in collecting data. It could be where you use the results of research to make a difference in a program or project, or it could be any other way that you were involved in a research project.
Thank you, Lynn. My first research project that I was involved in was when I was doing my dissertation for my studies in development studies in the Pan-African Institute for Development, West Africa, Boya. As my studies was coming to an end, I was supposed to do a research on the topic, the use of modern and local technology for the empowerment of persons with disabilities. So I did a sampling. I did my sample for my research and prepared questionnaires to collect my data. At that time, I did not have a good understanding to make a difference between the quantitative and qualitative data. It's thanks to the PIRL project now that I can make a clear distinction now. So I collected my data to defend my thesis at the end of my course on development study. I had to understand, I had to research on ways that persons with disabilities can be empowered to earn a sustainable livelihood and have financial independence through local and modern technology. So based on it, I was looking at the local ways that persons with disability were using skills or could gain skills. I came to realize that in the research, I realized that persons with disabilities who have already been trained in a trade like cane making, embroidery, bead art are the ones who train other persons with disability to also gain skills. At that time, there were limited modern ways in technology to train persons with disabilities because they did not yet have access or information on good digital tools like laptops, Android phones, tablet. They did not really have it. So that experience was, when I compare it to the PIRL experience, the PIRL project experience, that experience was just like an introduction to me, because with being involved in the PIRL project as a woman with disability, I came to understand a lot of things in research like disability and inclusive development research that I did not think of it at that time, and I did not know about it at that time. It gave me, the PIRL project has made me to also see the gaps in what I did at that time. That was just for an academic purpose, which you are just doing a research to answer to what question your coordinator or the team at the defense table, that the judges at the defense table will say to you. So you look for ways to answer them at the end in order to score your mark and just graduate and go. So I didn't go into that in-depth of research later on, till also I also realized that being involved in development works and being involved in the Northwest Association of Women with Disability and advocacy on disability rights, as I progressed in my work in disability, based on my understanding in research through the PIRL project, I have realized that most of our work is focused on research. So research is a continuous something that we learn as we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. It's so interesting to hear your story, and that you did not, I don't want to focus on the fact that you said you did not really understand the difference between quantitative and qualitative information or data. I think it's such an important aspect to research, and one that we need to continue, as you said, we continue to learn about what is knowledge, how do we understand things, what do we count. There's this phrase of, but not everything matters can be counted. So, not everything that can be counted matters. We can count things, and sometimes it's very important to be able to count them, but other things, you just can't count it. You have to understand it in a different way. And I think, as you talk about understanding the livelihoods and the way that people learn from each other, it's so important. It's not really a counting kind of research. It's not something that you could count how many people were helped, but it doesn't really give you the depth of knowledge that you get from having a non-numerical way of getting the information. Do you have some comments about that?
No.
Okay. Okay. Helen, please go ahead and tell us a story about a research project that you've been involved in.
My first research that I carried out was way over 20 years back. And that research had to do with traditional African oral literature, which I did in my village. And it was about initiation rites of young men into a particular cult. And to be able to carry out that research, I had to go to the village, to my village, Bangolandop in the Northwest. And the research was done mostly by moving from one door to the next, to the houses of those elderly men who were involved in that cult to get information about the initiation rites, the age, and what it takes to be initiated into that cult. As a woman, it was a bit out of place because it is a purely male cult. And so I had to take my uncle along to be talking on my behalf. My uncle introduced me. It was more about, it was from mouth to mouth, oral, completely oral. So I went along with a recorder and I was recording whatever they said and the song back then. Then I came back home with my uncle and we tried to do a translation because most of the men, the parents, or the men, let me say men, we met back there, could barely speak Pidgin English. They spoke in the dialect. I equally did not understand the dialect well back then. So I came with the help of my uncle and we translated it because my uncle was equally a teacher. We translated for me to be able to go and write it out now. So there were a lot of things, information there that I would want to now say was imaginative because my uncle equally had some difficulties into putting some of the information exactly as it should be when translated from the dialect to English language. And it was purely quantitative. It was not qualitative because I did not compare information. I got different informations and just built them up to come out with something concrete. And the next one I did was about 13 years ago that had to do with the teaching of pronunciations using context words and using meaning from the dictionary. There it was a comparative study which I carried in 2 classes in 3 different schools. From 2 classes, 2 streams in 3 different schools. And I taught, then marked the scripts. I did the same teaching in both classes. I did different tests in the classes in the 2 streams, marked them, came and put the results together and analyzed. And again, I would say it was quantitative because the results, or should I say findings, were more subjective to the researcher, me. So,
Helen,
yes.
I think you might be mixing up quantitative and qualitative, because what you're describing to me, I don't mean to be correcting you, I'm sorry, but describing, I think, is qualitative research. If you were gathering, you know, comments from people and stories. Did you do numbers? Was it numbers that you were gathering?
No, it was not numbers.
Then it would have been qualitative.
Okay.
Yeah. We can talk more about that later.
All right.
It sounds so interesting, though.
It was a first experience for me and getting to know some things about my tradition.
That's great. Thank you. Helen, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. If you'd like to finish your thought, please go ahead.
It's all right. Well, with the PIRL, getting more involved in research has been interesting to me because I keep learning. It's a learning experience for me. And as a teacher as well, it helps me.
Thank you.
I think I wanted to know a bit more about my culture. And when I was in the higher teachers training college in Yaoundé, my specialty was African oral literature. So I decided to write my thesis in that area. To me, it's not a matter of being a woman or being a man. It was just about understanding certain things when it comes to my tradition. In my village, unlike in some villages, we don't have a women's court. That is actually what piqued my interest. Some other villages have women courts, but my village does not have. So I wanted, first of all, to know the different courts that existed, and then I chose one. I was actually interested in this one because it is a court that is linked to the palace, and I come from the palace, so I wanted to understand a bit. That is what piqued my interest. Julie.
Thank you, Helen. And thank you, Dieudonné, for the question.
Welcome, Doctor.
Okay, so we've gone through our first 3 questions. We have 2 more, and then we'll open it up for more discussion. So the next question is, what are your key messages for researchers? 1 or 2 key messages that you would really like to share with researchers? What do you want researchers and decision makers to really keep in mind? Veronica, please go ahead.
Can you please take the question again so that I can have a better understanding?
Sure. If you were speaking to a researcher who was putting together a new project, for example,
Okay.
a researcher who's starting out on their career, they want to be a researcher, build their career, what would be your message to them?
I'll let them know that carrying out an inclusive research is very important, and involving women and girls with disabilities in that research or other vulnerable persons will be very important, because it will totally bring out the specific needs and the gaps that the population will be, the challenges people face. Why I will insist on him carrying out a disability and inclusive development research is for all persons to be represented, is to ensure representation of everybody, and for everyone to give their contributions so that the research can concretely cover cover every idea where persons with disabilities and specifically women with disability can be involved. It will give his research more, it will give him more grounds and a very good result in his research, because when he will be publishing his research, the audience will realize that they have been the contributions of the minority in the research. And I will let him know that people contributing in the research, they should not make it to be very academic, because persons with disability or women with disability do not have a kind of standard of education, but they have good contributions that can be contributed to make a research very complete.
So for completeness, all researchers should think about including women with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
And Helen, what would be 1 or 2 messages for researchers from you?
My first message will be that research is relevant for everyone. Yes, research is relevant for everyone. Whoever is being researched or whatever is being researched, it is very important to get everybody involved in that particular field or in that particular area. In this way, we'll be able to come out with authentic findings and results that will help us maybe with further investigations or with decisions that we need to take or make in relation to those findings. So it's very important to get everybody involved. not just the researcher going around thinking or imagining what is better or good or best in the area of research that they're carrying out.
So thank you. Consulting, finding ways to consult in meaningful ways with women. Okay, thank you. I'm going to give each of you a minute to just respond if there's anything else you would like to add about being involved in research or any messages that you would like to share. Veronica?
I want to thank you, Lynn, for giving us the opportunity to share our thoughts on this interview or on this Zoom meeting. I want to thank the PIRL team for giving women with disability the opportunity to take part and give our contribution in the PIRL project research, in the PIRL project all through these years. And I really appreciate the PIRL team totally for continuously empowering us. It has been an enriching process and we continue to learn. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Helen?
I love to say thank you to the PIRL team in particular for knowledge that we have gained, for knowledge that we have acquired. I'll say thank you to the PIRL team for the inclusiveness, for getting us included in everything that they have been doing, not only to enhance, but also to empower us in other areas of life, and especially with technology. Women generally are not good when it comes to technology. Talk less of women with disabilities who are, I don't know if I should say less educated. It has been a worthwhile opportunity, a worthwhile period that we have spent together. And I'm hoping that we will impact others with the knowledge that we have gained from PIRL. And thank you for the so many enriching webinars.
Thank you, Helen. I don't think it's an innate issue for women. You know, women can use technology just as well as men. It's because of opportunity and education and so many other barriers that women face, I think, that they don't have access to be able to learn. So we have a few minutes for discussion. If anyone would like to make a comment, reflect on what you've heard, ask any question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lynn. I would like to thank you for including us in this meeting. I've learned a lot about how women to carry out their research. And also to add to what you have just said, I would like to encourage Helen not to always think that women cannot do the same as men do, and even better. So women should not be left behind in technology and in science. They shouldn't think that they are the teacher sex. No, they are equal to men. So you shouldn't say that anymore. But we're all better equal. So everybody have the same brain. So technology is for everyone, not only for men. Thank you.
Maybe we can do some research in that area.
Yes, okay.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments, questions? I see one comment in the chat that it's really interesting to hear about ethnographic research and doing field work, not just studying things that were already written, actually doing the primary research. And Helen responded that yes, it was very interesting and that she learned a lot about her tradition. I think when we can get into the field, even doing small projects can have a big impact. And I have a question for both of you. Did any of the projects that you described get published in a way that we could read them? Not necessarily published in academic papers, academic journals, but are any of those projects available for people to read, even from your own personal library? Veronica or Helen?
Yes, I have it in my personal library. We do it, and after we carry out our research, we now put it in book form, and then we defend it as a thesis, and we get copies to our schools, and then you have a personal copy too. So if you go to NWAWWD, the library, you'll find a copy of my research there.
But you have your own personal copy?
Yes, I do have.
Okay. It would be very interesting to, especially that one that you did 20 years ago. I think
Yes.
it would be so interesting to read more about. Veronica, do you have copies of any of your research?
Yes, Lynn, the research I did in Pan-Africa, I have a hard copy of it with me. I've always had it since from the time we defended our dissertation. So it's with me and it's still intact.
Okay, and did it get published beyond that? Did the results become available beyond that?
I don't think so. I only know that it is going to remain in the library in Pan-African Institute for Development, Pedwa Boya. That is in 2013.
Okay. I just think of all of the great work that's been done and how, you know, maybe there's some way that we can have more access to it. Because it's very important work that you're doing and that you have done. And it would be really helpful to be able to share that with others, if at all possible. Any other final comments before we wrap up for today?
I would like to talk with Mr. Dieudonné. That would be a misconception that I think that women cannot do what men can do. I'm talking about a particular set of women who are limited because of lack of accessibility, lack of knowledge.
So Helen, you're saying that they have potentials that have not been realized.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons we do research, right? To be able
Yes.
to demonstrate that change can happen and that interventions can actually make a difference. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to share an experience based on the time that I was doing that research. But can I go on now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. What I realized during the time that I was doing that research was that my supervisor was not very experienced in doing supervision for students who do research and data analysis. So at that time too, it has been a passion in me to learn how to do digital things. So at that time, I took it like an experiment to analyze my data on charts with the Excel sheet. So I was analyzing my data, and then every data I analyze, I'll do a chart or on an Excel sheet. So when he was seeing me doing that, he was more focused on my ability to do data analysis on Excel and charts. He did not want to go into detail to see if what I was doing was right or wrong, or I was really inputting the data in the right way. he was just so excited. And every time I take my work to him to check and maybe give me corrections and guide me, he's so interesting only about my ability to use the computer and the Excel sheet so well. Now there is another person who came in and was able to really guide me, who has better experience and was able to guide me. And I noticed that if I had relied on what my main supervisor was doing, my dissertation would have been poorly presented. So this I'm saying maybe in academics that if they want to assign a supervisor for a student or for a researcher who is a student, they should also weigh his experience to see if it can really blend with the topic and how he can properly guide the student to successfully carry out the research and defend it at the end.
It's a very important point, and it also speaks to the importance of having research teams where, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 more people can be involved, because often one person does not know everything that is needed for one project. It takes 2 or 3 heads to really work things through. And I think that's a great example, Veronica. Your supervisor might have known one area, but did not really understand what you were doing. So when someone else,
sure,
you were able to do it. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And sometimes we get a little bit, what's the word? If we feel that we're a little bit more senior, we might not be so comfortable having somebody question us. I think it's really important that all researchers, regardless of, and I don't think you disagree with me, you know, wherever we are on the spectrum of new, middle, senior, experienced, new, you know, we all have so much to learn. There's so many things. There's no shortage of things to learn. And I really appreciate both of you for sharing your openness to learning with us today. You've given us some really great stories and some great ideas. And I think we leave here thinking about how we can really take more steps to include women with disabilities in research more systematically and more carefully.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lynn.
So thank you very much to both of you and to everyone who is in the audience today. We will continue these discussions. We will continue having other webinars very soon.